People who were adopted when they were old enough to remember it. How long did it take for your adopted family to feel like your family? I was 6, my sister 11. She took to them right away, but it took me about 6 months. This is abnormally long, but because they were the fourth family to try and adopt us, I thought I was going back into foster care, so I had an irrational hatred of them for several months. Now 14 years later, I am very glad they adopted my sister, and I always felt a part of the family, but even more so when my nan happily patted my stomach and exclaimed, "You're getting the family belly. I miss you, Nan." Not sure if I am correct about this, but I have an adopted sister. Total pain in my butt growing up. She was between 10 to 12 when my parents adopted her. I had 2 other sisters, so another one just seemed like a small issue, to be honest. Well, after the adoption was finalized, she became a demon. Since I was the oldest, I was in charge of trying to get her to learn multiplication. She would just scream and scream. I finally gave up at some point, and my parents got her into an after-school program to help her. The house just felt tense and full of anger for about 2 years. She's getting married in 2 weeks. Recently she thanked me for being patient with me. I'm a bridesmaid. I told her that all little sisters must first be a pain in the butt in order to ever be considered sisters. I was 4 when I was adopted, and it took a couple of months. My elder brothers, also adopted, used to give me extra sweets and food from their plates. It's something I had never experienced before. It was incredible. I had never experienced that sort of love from anyone before. I was about 9 years old when I was adopted. My sisters and my brother came with. At the time, I didn't realize just how crazy my new parents were for deciding to adopt all 4 of us at once. Now that I'm older, I can safely say that we've given both of them absolute hell all throughout our teenage years. Honestly, not being separated from my siblings made the transition kind of seamless. We'd been in the foster care system for only about 8 months and were more or less oblivious to what was going on. Then we were introduced to some people who wanted to be our new parents. One week we were visiting these 2 nice people, the next we were living with them and visiting all our new relatives. I know that it might sound kind of bland, but there was maybe only a period of a couple weeks where I had to get comfortable with thinking of these strangers as family. Maybe it helped that I was a relatively dumb kid, or maybe my new family being so closely knit with each other helped. Hell, my new grandparents lived next door to us until we moved to a bigger house. About a week in when they told me I didn't have to ask permission every time I wanted food. I was like, well, this is family. About 2 months, that's when I asked if I could call her mom. She cried and I felt bad because I didn't know happy tears were a thing when I was 5. Edit, wow, my first gold in 5 years. Thank you, kind strangers. Sorry I made you all cry, haha. I was adopted by my foster family when I was 5 years old. I had been with them since I was a baby, but I fully understood there was a difference between being a foster kid who called them mom and dad and being their kid. A lot of kids came in and out of the doors that called them mom and dad, but I knew that if I was adopted it meant I got to stay. This may sound harsh, but I sincerely appreciated it. When my parents were waiting to hear about the adoption, my mom sat me down and we had a very tough conversation. I obviously don't remember the details, but I do remember one thing. A yes to the adoption meant I could stay with them forever. A no meant that I would likely be moved to a new foster home. I remember hiding in my room when any new cars pulled up out front of our house because I so badly wanted to stay. My mom said she told me because she wanted me to have no doubt in my mind that yes or no they wanted and loved me. Luckily for me, and I have to say this because I can feel the stares of my whole family if I don't, luckily for them too, the answer was yes. I think when it clicked for me, really fully clicked, was when I was about 10 to 13 and I found an old VHS tape with my name on it. I put it in and it was my family. My mom, dad, brother and sister. They were all standing in front of the camera and they were talking about me. My older brother said something I'll never forget. I have a little sister, her name is Elyandra. I guess she isn't ours yet, but we want to keep her. I really hope we get to, 'cause I love her a lot. That did it. Knowing that this awkward 14-year-old kid loved me so much he was willing to say that into a camera for a tape my parents planned to send with me if I couldn't be theirs. I was a mess. I still can barely watch it now without bursting into tears. My brother and I are about 12 years apart and we are the best of friends. It definitely helped that all of my extended family felt the same too. Anytime anyone would say something or make a comment or even mention adoption, my aunts were like vultures. It's the most amazing feeling ever. Well, that doesn't matter, she is ours. Always has been, followed by crushing hugs from at least 5 people. I've read a lot of the comments about people wanting to adopt, and I think that's a big one. Talk about it. Don't let it be a dirty secret. Make sure your kid knows that different biology or not, they are yours. My family was fantastic about it, and I feel like it made a huge difference. I've also read a lot of comments about adopted kids never feeling like they fit with their adopted family. I had that less because I was always allowed to be who I was. I've since met my biological family and I feel much more awkward and uncertain with them. They expect me to be just like them and I'm not. I'm also not just like my adopted family either. I'm just me. My family does a much better job of making me feel valued, loved and accepted for those differences than some of my birth family. That said, I also get along really well with my birth mom, who I just call by name. We met when I was 16. She has never tried to parent me and we have a solid understanding of our role. I have a mom and she is fantastic. My birth mom is not my mom, but I am her daughter. It's confusing for other people, but it makes sense for us. Smiley face. So this is a friend's story, but my friend, we'll call her Jen, became the sudden guardian of her niece, Stacy, when Stacy's mom, Julie, was sent to jail for multiple duis. Jen was white, and her sister Julie was white, but Stacy was biracial, though her dad had not been in the picture since she was born. Julie had washed Stacy's hair with drugstore shampoo for oily hair since Stacy was born, and when Jen got custody of Stacy, Stacy's hair was a super dry rat's nest, tangled and dry and broken and frizzy. Stacy was so shy she basically couldn't talk around strangers. Jen got the call at around 8 p.m. and went to pick up Stacy from the police station, where Julie had been imprisoned, and Jen texted me, I had hair knowledge, around 10 p.m. She said, hey, I know you know about hair, and Stacy's hair is a hot mess. Julie never learned how to take care of black hair, what should I do? I don't want her to go to school with this big mess, and she's super self-conscious. I got this text and I went, holy garbage, I have to call Mary. My husband was like, you cannot call Mary, it is 10 p.m. I was like, dude, it is a black hair emergency, I am calling Mary. And he was like, she's going to be pissed. It's 10 p.m. And I was like, I don't think you understand what a black hair emergency is. So I called Mary, who was a pastor and a leader in the local African American community, and I left a message and I said, I'm sorry to call so late, but my friend who's white just became the guardian for a biracial child, and her hair is a mess and she doesn't know what to do, please help. I got an immediate text saying, stand by, and then a call back around 10:45, and she said, okay, I have made a bunch of calls, your friend needs to bring her to $specific salon at 10 a.m. Nadia is going to take care of her hair and she is great with children, and I've gotten in touch with my niece who is a social worker who specializes in multiracial families, and she is bringing in some white moms to talk to your friend, and some other kids to talk to Stacy, and if your friend can block out 4 hours the salon is going to teach her about black hair care. So I called my friend back at 11 p.m. and gave her all the info, and my friend drove to a part of the city she'd never been to first thing in the morning, where a whole cadre of black women and biracial women and white moms of black children were there to meet her, and they had the very latest Disney movie on the TV, Tangled, maybe, and Nadia rescued Stacy's hair and made it beautiful for the first day of school, and they held a class for Jen and taught her all about hair care for Stacy, and all the women in multiracial families talked to her about hair care and skin care, and every week for 3 months Jen went down to that salon. It was a half-an-hour drive from where she lived, that was a lot in our city, to learn how to take care of Stacy's hair. Stacy told me later on, in 8 years my mom couldn't be bothered to learn how to take care of my hair, but in the very first 24 hours she had custody of me, my aunt moved mountains to make sure I felt pretty for the first day of school and that she learned how to take care of my hair. She spent hundreds of dollars to make sure she knew what to do. And that was when I knew she'd always take care of me no matter what it took. Quote, this whole comment section is reminding me of this Gabriel Iglesias story. Gabriel speaking to his girlfriend's son, so, have you ever wanted to meet your real dad and talk to him? Son, but Gabriel, you are my real dad. Quote, My girl came to us at 4Y. She called me dad from the beginning, but the real switch was after 2Y living with us. Not long once I realized they saved us, me and my 2-year-old sister at the time. I was 8. I was adopted at age 9 and it took a little time. I got to watch movies with my new parents for the first time and I felt uncomfortable calling them mom or dad for ages. It took almost 20 years until I started saying dad, and it still feels a little weird calling him that. But don't get me wrong, he's my dad and I love him, smiley face.